Moving on now to what's happening in the occupied West Bank. Israeli forces have carried out major raids across the West Bank, killing at least 3 Palestinians. Dozens of military vehicles were confronted by Palestinian fighters in Jenin. All 5 hospitals in Jenin were surrounded. 203 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli raids in the occupied West Bank since October the 7th. Zein Basravi joins us live from Ramallah in the West Bank. Zein, tell us about these raids and why hospitals were being surrounded.
Well, certainly Jenin was the major flashpoint in overnight raids in the last 12 to 24 hours. But just before we get into that, some information we have coming into us just in the last hour of another shooting incident at a checkpoint, the second in as many days, north of Hebron. The details are still coming into us, but what we understand is that there was a shooting incident at a checkpoint north of Hebron, a vehicle crossing. 2 Palestinians have been reportedly killed in that incident. They were shot inside their vehicles. We have so far just the account from the Israeli side of things, from the Israeli military, suggesting that this was an attempted shooting attack and that these 2 men were killed. We'll get more details on that as soon as they come into us here in Ramallah. But again, the second such incident in as many days. In terms of what happened in Jenin, Jenin has become a major flashpoint in and around the city, in and around the refugee camp there. Since this war began, the raids have been consistently targeting Jenin. 10:30 p.m. local night, a large force went into the area around the camp with bulldozers, armored vehicles, a large number of Israeli soldiers. They were met with Palestinians who retaliated, throwing rocks, but also using explosives on those positions. We've seen an observable rise in the amount of explosives and small arms being used by resistance forces on the Palestinian side to these raids. A drone strike carried out by the Israelis killed at least 3 people, one of them said to be a leader of the Jenin battalion of the military wing of Islamic Jihad. 14 Palestinians were injured, many of them remain in critical condition, and we saw the Israeli forces reportedly pursue the injured, stopping ambulances, going into the hospital, reportedly in an attempt to try to arrest and detain the people injured in those altercations with Israeli soldiers. We saw paramedics being called out with their hands raised, questioned and interrogated. Doctors were also told to come out of the hospital and surrender themselves. They refused, saying that they were taking care of their patients. Now, Jenin is a major flashpoint. We've seen at least 203 people killed since in the occupied West Bank since the war on Gaza began. 25% of those deaths happened in Jenin, and that is because this area is a major area of operations for Palestinian fighting groups. The military wings of different political factions are concentrated there, and the Israelis are very keen to make sure that the occupied West Bank, these areas, don't become another major flashpoint. They're tackling Hezbollah on the border with Lebanon. They've got the war on Gaza. They don't want Jenin, they don't want the occupied West Bank to become a major area of operations, continuously putting pressure on communities here, which people here say is counterintuitive, that Palestinian positions are hardening and the pushback is growing. But in any case, that figure, 25% of the deaths happening in and around Jenin, really tells you how seriously Israeli forces are taking what they see as the threat emanating from there.
Zein Basravi reporting in Ramallah. I also note you were telling us about Jenin, but earlier you were telling us about this incident, that breaking news on a shooting incident near Hebron. So you'll give us more information on that, I know, as soon as you get it, Zein. Thank you very much.